For the first time, Mexico has elected transgender parliamentarians, a victory of decades-long struggle for the recognition of LGBT civil rights. Yet another call for impeachment has been filed against Brazilian President Jair Bolsonaro, this time over a corrupt $400 million vaccine deal. China has commemorated the centenary of its Communist Party this July 1st with a huge festivity in Tiananmen Square in the capital, Beijing. From the headquarters of teleSUR English in Havana, Cuba, this is From the South. I am Janet Perez Moya. We begin with the news. Stay with us. For the first time, Mexico has elected transgender parliamentarians, a victory of decades-long struggle for the recognition of LGBT civil rights. Amid protests and legal battles over sexual identity, parties were forced to include members of the LGBT community on their lists of candidates in the recent June 6 elections. More than 100 candidates from the LGBT community, including some 4 transgender individuals, participated in the last legislative and local elections. Salma Luevano and Maria Clemente Garcia became the first transgender congresswoman in the country. By number of victims, Mexico is the second most lethal country for transgender people after Brazil in the Latin American region. Only in 2020, 79 members of the LGBT community were murdered. In El Salvador, a new femicide raised protests in a nation where the murder of women and gender-based violence are becoming more and more common. This is Joel del Valle, the man suspect in the murder of his wife, Flor Garcia, who disappeared in March. This Tuesday, authorities found her body in a farm 32 kilometers far from the capital, San Salvador. On June 25, police arrested Valle and another man, Francisco Boanerges, after being accused by the Attorney General's office of being allegedly involved in the case. Femicide is not a new phenomenon in El Salvador. Figures from the Observatory of Violence Against Women show that between January and May, 71 femicides were registered in the country, up from 53 registered in the same period in 2020. Argentina became the first country in the world to ban salmon farming. It is a pioneer environmental law adopted in the Tierra del Fuego or Land of Fire in La Patagonia, in the southernmost province in the country. Salmon is an exotic species in the region. Salmon farms were first introduced in the southern hemisphere in southern Chile in 1990s on experimental basis. Abundance of clean waters and lakes and the Pacific Ocean made Chile the world's second exporter of salmon at a high environmental price. Depletion of waters by excessive concentration of salmon cage and the tons of antibiotics forced salmon farming companies to move southward. When companies started looking at the Beagle Strait shared by Argentina and Chile, alarms went on. Environmental groups on both sides of the border celebrated the historic new law. Uruguay has seen the second increase in fuel prices in 22 days, sparking further condemnations from affected sectors. The Ministry of Industry, Energy and Mining announced the latest measure. A similar hike in prices previously sparked a strike in the transport sector. In addition, the government ratified the policy of reviewing the tariff on a monthly basis to adjust them according to the international market. The executive order was questioned by the opposition Broad Front coalition, which described the measure as a breach of President Lacalle Pou's electoral promise not to increase fuel prices. In Venezuela, face-to-face classes are set to resume in October. The news was announced during the closing ceremony of the Bicentennial Congress of the Venezuelan Federation of University and High School Students this Thursday. The event, which was presided over by President Nicolás Maduro and saw the participation of representatives of the different educational areas and institutions of the country, includes an account of the proposals developed during the Congress regarding transportation, canteens, scholarships, and students' residences. Maduro informed that in October, with all the biosecurity measures in place, educational activities will be resumed throughout the country. In addition, a pilot plan was announced to collect student travel fares through the Homeland system in 9 states of the country. The President of Mexico, Andrés Manuel López Obrador, offered a balance of his administration at the head of the state after 3 years in office. After this period, the Mexican heads of state still retains a high level of popularity among the Mexican population. His supporters claim that López Obrador's victory represents the collapse of a political model that denied the social rights of the Mexican people. Political organizations have pointed out that the country was governed by a neoliberal bipartisan chimps full of corruption. Recent polls reveal that the president has an approval rating of more than 70% due to his social programs. Early Thursday morning, Elsa became the 5-named storm of the current Atlantic hurricane season in the Western Caribbean Sea. A tropical storm warning its effects for Barbados, Martinique, St. Lucia, and St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Meanwhile, Grenada and its dependencies are under a tropical storm watch, as well as the southern and western coasts of Haiti. As of 5 p.m., the center of the storm was located some 600 kilometers east southwest of Barbados, with its movement west-north-westward at 46 kilometers per hour and with maximum sustained winds of about 75 kilometers per hour. Heavy rainfall from Elsa is forecast to move quickly across Windward and southern Leeward Island, including Barbados, on Friday. Other rain bands will impact Puerto Rico on Friday and southern Hispaniola by early Saturday. There is a risk of strong wind and rainfall in Cuba, Jamaica, and Turks and Caicos Island, and the Bahamas through the next week.
To the center, and so it's kind of getting into the inner core.
We will be right back after this very short break, so don't go away. Welcome back to From the South. Brazilian President Jair Bolsonaro added one collective file to more than 100 filings of impeachment against him. The latest file introduced to the lower house of Congress on Wednesday was supported by lawmakers from different parties, social groups, and lawyers, this time for another corruption scandal involving the purchase of Indian vaccines. Bolsonaro rejects the claims, but said the health ministry official in charge of procurements. The deal with India's Bharat Biotech was halted on Tuesday, and the next day the health regulator suspended its emergency use application. The official Roberto Ferreira Diaz has allegedly suggested a bribe of $1 per each dose in negotiation a 400 million vaccines deal. So far, impeachment requests have gone unhit.
We brought together almost all those who presented impeachment requests, from all political positions, left, center-left, right, center-right, everyone who wants and has the goal to free the country of a president who is unable to govern.
It is a question of principles. It is a question of values, of morals, of repudiating the criminal negligence that has led over the 500,000 deaths due to COVID-19.
The Brazilian Senate is moving forward with investigations into alleged corruption in the purchase of COVID-19 vaccines by the Jair Bolsonaro's government. This Thursday, a representative of the Davacti medical supply company, Luis Paulo Dominguetti, appeared before the Senate commission investigating the government's handling of the pandemic. In his statement, Dominguetti, who was negotiating the sale for 400 million AstraZeneca vaccine doses, announced that the health ministry officials offered him a bribe of $1 for each doses. This accusation comes following the scandal over the alleged overpriced purchase of the vaccines from India. Meanwhile, Brazilian social, political, and trade unions movements continue to demand the removal of President Bolsonaro and emergency aid to face the impacts of the pandemic. 2 doses of any COVID vaccine appear to provide protection against the rapidly spreading Delta coronavirus variant, the European Medicines Agency said this Thursday. This assessment came as the World Health Organization warned that the coronavirus strain first spotted in India could fuel a new wave of cases in Europe.
We are aware of the concerns caused by the rapid spread of the Delta variant and other variants as well. Right now, it seems that the 4 vaccines that are approved in the European Union are protective against all strains that are circulating in Europe, including the Delta variant. Emerging data from real-world evidence are showing that 2 doses of vaccines are protective against the Delta variant. And
Bolivia begins massive vaccination for the above 18 years of age population. This was confirmed by President Luis Arce on Thursday. Over 8 million first and second anti-COVID doses are set to arrive in July and August. This will be complemented by 6 million Sinopharm jabs as of July 10. After that, every 10 days, another million units will arrive, whereas Sputnik V vaccines complete this initial phase of the mass inoculation package with their first 500,000 doses cargo. The Andean country, with a population leader over 10 million, has over half its citizens over the 18 years old line. President Arce expressed the importance of mass vaccination so Bolivia can be one of the first countries in the region in overcoming the pandemic and carry on in its normal course. The European Union digital COVID certificate came into effect throughout the members' country on Thursday. The bloc is trying to boost its summer tourism season by facilitating free movement.
Thank you, Dana. And today, the EU digital COVID certificate regulation enters into application. Europeans now have the right to have their EU certificate issued and accepted across the Union. With this, everyone in Europe should be able to travel safely and freely this summer. Proposed by the European Commission in March, the EU digital COVID certificate is now a reality throughout the EU. All member states are connected to the EU gateway, and 26 member states are issuing certificates today. Even though the regulation only applies as of today, already until now, more than 200 million certificates have been generated.
Infection numbers have increased in Africa for 6 weeks running, rising by a quarter week on week to almost 202,000 in the week that ended Sunday due to the Delta variant of coronavirus. According to the World Health Organization, the continent's weekly record currently stands at 22,000 new cases. That rose by 15% across 38 African countries to nearly 3,000 in the same period. The highly contagious Delta variant has been reported in 16 countries, accounting for 70% of the samples sequenced in Uganda and 79% in the Democratic Republic of Congo. Oxygen demands in Africa is now 50% higher than at the peak of the first wave a year ago. African countries are suffering from a crippling shortage of COVID vaccines. Only 15 million people, just 1.2% of the African population, are fully vaccinated, the WHO remarked. At least 10 people, including several women, were killed in an attack blamed on the Allied Democratic Forces armed group in the Democratic Republic of Congo. Some of the victims were killed in their homes, while others were taken to the center of the neighborhood before being shot and beaten with machetes or pieces of concrete. Local residents protest the violence and angrily demand that the police and military provide better protection to the civilian population. Demonstrators carried one of the victims to the town hall, where the army and police dispersed the protests, reportedly using live ammunition. Police and the military have blamed Allied Democratic Forces rebels for the violence. The attacks in the eastern city of Beni as the source in the area this week. The region has been mired in conflict for more than a quarter of a century, particularly near by the border of Rwanda. We have more stories coming up after this final short break, so stay with us. Welcome back. The Communist Party of China celebrated its centenary with a spectacular ceremony held on Tiananmen Square in Beijing, where Chinese President and General Secretary of the party, Xi Jinping, stressed that the country's future holds more progress and prosperity.
Fewer than 50 members in 1921 to more than 95 million today, from setting out on a major campaign to consolidate the country's unity to leading the most impressive economic miracle of modern times. The Communist Party of China celebrated its 100 years of history that forever changed the course of the Asian giant and the world. On the occasion of the party's centenary and after declaring the eradication of extreme poverty, China officially announced that it has achieved a moderately prosperous society in all respects, an unprecedented achievement in a country that just a few decades ago was struggling to guarantee basic food for its more than 1 billion inhabitants.
Through the continued efforts of the whole party and the entire nation, we have realized the first centenary goal of building a moderately prosperous society in all respects. This means that we have brought about a historic resolution to the problem of absolute poverty in China, and we are now marching in confident strides toward the second centenary goal of building China into a great modern socialist country in all respects.
During his speech, hundreds of people gathered in Beijing's Tiananmen Square, and in a stronger tone than usual, President Xi Jinping warned that the Chinese Communist Party will not allow any person or force to stand in the way of its relationship with the people, nor will it allow China to be bullied, oppressed or enslaved ever again.
We will never allow any foreign force to bully, oppress or subjugate us. Anyone who would attempt to do so will find themselves on a collision course with the Great Wall of Steel forged by over 1.4 billion Chinese people.
The nation that celebrated this Thursday the 100th anniversary of its ruling party is the world's second largest economy and a leader in cutting-edge technologies such as 5G networks. Under the leadership of the Communist Party, China also taught the world how to control the COVID-19.
As a member of the Communist Party and a Chinese citizen, we have great confidence in the party's leadership, which can lead us to become richer and stronger. I am a doctor and I won this medal for my work fighting against COVID-19, a task in which the party guided us to dedicate the maximum efforts, and today we can see the results.
You can see our joy because the party made us free, prosperous. For the Communist Party of China, this centenary is much more than a celebration, as it is an important moment to show and consolidate the achievements that have allowed it to transform the country into the second world power and have guaranteed confidence of the Chinese people.
Irán Peraza, teleSUR, Beijing, China.
In Vienna, the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries agreed on limited output increase in order to stabilize prices. Oil prices have been growing steadily over the last few months, and some expect the barrel of reference crudes West Texas Intermediate and Brent to reach $100 soon. OPEC members and allies like Russia agreed to increase the offer up to 2 million barrels a day between August and December. Market price rose by about $2 after the announcement. In Canada, new evidence of ethnic cleansings come to light. The remains of nearly 200 people were found in unmarked graves under the grounds of a former Indigenous residential school in British Columbia. The 182 remains were discovered in the area of an Akan community by locals and are believed to be from Ktunaxa Nation members. Some were buried less than 1 meter deep. St. Eugene's Mission Residential School near the city of Cambrook, British Columbia, was run by the Catholic Church from 1920s until 1970s, when it became a resort and casino. July 1st is called also Canada Day, celebrating the date when settlers declared themselves a nation within the British Empire 145 years ago. President of Burkina Faso, Roch-Marc Christian Kaboré, sacked 2 of his ministers on Wednesday over recent massacres there that have been provoked protests over growing insecurity. Kaboré himself took over from Sheriff Said as defense minister, while he appointed a new security minister, according to 2 statements from the government. Earlier this month, the opposition called for the resignation of the Prime Minister Christophe Davide and Defense Minister Sherif Said, charged with responsibility for the rising tide of terrorist violence in the country. Burkina Faso has faced increasingly frequent and deadly attacks by extremist groups since 2015, causing some of 1,500 casualties and forcing almost 1.5 million to flee their homes.
The various attacks that our country has experienced lately, attacks that have been extremely serious, have challenged the conscience of the head of state who felt that this readjustment was essential. I think that this decision is extremely important and allows the head of state, who was elected by the people, to reconnect with the people and to recreate the confidence that is essential for the need to ensure the security of the people and property in our country.
The Bethlehem site of the Israeli separation wall in the occupied Palestinian territory of the West Bank has been decorated with murals and graffiti as a means of denunciation of injustice and resistance. This work by Taki Spaten, one of the many Palestinians who use his art as a means to face adversity and the continued attacks on the Zionist regime, form part of this open-air exhibition along this criminal wall of apartheid. His murals depict themes that go beyond the Palestinian struggles. To his work includes an enormous portrait of George Floyd, the African-American killed by former U.S. policeman Derek Chauvin, visually depicting the Palestinian life under Israeli occupation. Is an important tool to maintain global awareness of the decades-old injustice, the artist stressed.
Our culture is our real face, the fact that we, the Palestinians, don't just know how to resist, but also know how to present their message and speak for ourselves in various ways, with words, poetry, everything, morals, good deeds, customs and traditions, economy, politics, and graffiti. Graffiti is one of the means of resistance in Palestine. We have been without justice since 1948, since the arrival of the Jews, when they invaded and occupied our lands, and since then our souls have been crushed and we can't breathe. Since then, justice has not just been lacking, it's been missing.
And we have come to the end of this news brief, but remember you can find this and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. You can also follow us on social media. We are on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram and Telegram for Telesur English. I am Janet Perez Moya. Thank you for watching.